What's up, everybody? Very special episode today on PN and Friends. We got Pablo Heman here. What's going on, brother?
Hey man, just nice to see you again, Nima. Nice to see everyone. Have you seen this crazy Federal Reserve Chairman that Trump has appointed? I mean,
Wow.
I know you guys are all pro-Trump and MAGA, but do you guys smell something wrong with this guy, or is it just the rest of us?
Yeah, I mean it's especially with the link of how he got in there, right? I mean, what do you think? I mean, the Fed held rates pretty steady, but didn't offer any guidance. What's your thoughts on that? Let's just
Okay,
jump
so
in.
first of all, I want to be absolutely clear. I'm not anti-MAGA. I'm not a Democrat, not pro-Kamala or Biden or whoever. Uh, I just call it a spade a spade. Do you remember the very first live we did on this with you in this format about 2 months ago? We were talking about Kevin Warsh before he got in, and I said this guy is going to be Trump's stooge. Did I not call that? You
Yeah,
remember that conversation, right?
yeah. I
And
remember.
I even looked up his father-in-law, and I said this is problematic, you know. So look, the everyone, the whole market, right, is predicting that he's going to hike rates, three hikes by the end of the year. When he first came in 2 meetings ago, the market said three hikes, three more hikes. And you know the market doesn't mess around because this is like it's kind of like gambling. It's almost exactly like gambling because there's a lot of money wagering on whether he's going to hike, he's going to keep rates on hold or cut. Mostly it's on hold or hike rates. And people literally lose billions. Like someone lost 40 billion yesterday. We can talk about that a little bit later. Massive AI hedge fund lost $40 billion yesterday because they got this wrong. And I kept on saying, I said, look, I cannot see how this guy is going to hike rates into a midterm election since this guy was nominated by Trump. Everyone's like, oh no, but the Federal Reserve is independent. Federal Reserve is independent. They're going to hike rates. He kept on saying 2% inflation, 2% inflation. We got to protect, every American from with a 2% inflation goal. He sounded so hawkish. I was like, just watch. He's not going to hike rates because and do you remember this, Nima? The very first conversation we had in this interview format, you were asking me, how did you know this? Do you have any evidence? I said, I can show you this, I can show you that. I showed you his father-in-law was a rich billionaire who was the uh, like a lifelong buddy of Trump's, and they all went to Wharton at UPenn together. And I said, I can prove it to you mathematically, right? Of all the people he could have chosen for this job, this Kevin Warsh guy is not even in the top 10, not in the top 20. He's probably not even in the top 50, but he got chosen. Like you could even argue that he's a 100 to 1 rank outsider. Of all those people, he chose someone who's very close to him in his circles, his best friend's son-in-law, right? And are you telling me mathematically, probabilistically, if you understand anything about statistics, about probability, that that's not a stooge? When especially, especially Trump's not like any other president. In a way, the reason why I think MAGA voters like him is because he's honest. In a way, he's honest because he tells you exactly what's happening, right? He can't help it. He told you guys beforehand. He said, Jerome Powell, I'm not happy with him. He needs to cut rates. He needs to cut rates. I'm going to fire this guy. This guy's terrible. Going to cut rates. A Fed chairman doesn't go in for 4 years. A Fed chairman goes in and stays for 11 years. That's what Jerome Powell's term was, 11 years. He he waits 1 year to get rid of Jerome Powell, and he's got 3 more years left. You think he's going to nominate a guy who could last 11 years in there? You think he's going to pick one guy, the one guy he can't control? If he wants to pick a guy he can't control, there's like 20 different guys, 30, 40 different guys who are more qualified, ranked above him. And he picks this one guy. Like, yeah, when I said this, people were in doubt. They were like, are you saying, Pablo, that the Federal Reserve is not independent? It's controlled by the presidency? I'm like, no, normally not, usually not. But in this case, it's pretty obvious. It's like, I want to ask you guys, like, as a MAGA voter, as a fan, do you guys see? Does this make sense to you, or do you think I'm bipartisan and totally biased?
I mean, I think the thing is that the Fed chairman has a reputation, man, that he's generally honest. He cares about his credibility, and honestly, I think it's a W Trump for if if he's playing a role in having him. In this respect, I say give him credit that he didn't just bring in a guy that's just a flat out liar. Um, I mean, why did you think the Fed decision that's coming up? Do you think the Fed decision coming up in general? Do you think it's predictable as a trader?
I think so. I think so. Because here's the thing: the people who are betting,
Yeah.
there is an interest rate instrument called the Fed funds rate. It's literally something you can trade on the CME, Chicago Mercantile Exchange. And it's the one instrument that the market looks at to predict where interest rates are going. On top of that, you also have the 2-year US 2-year bills.
Yeah.
You have the 5-year notes, 10-year notes, and the 30-year bonds. All of those, futures or not, are instruments you could trade to express your view on whether interest rate cuts or hikes are coming or interest rates are going to be on hold. Even stocks, even Bitcoin and gold, they move as soon as the decision is announced. There's literally like 300, $400 billion betting on this every time. And this time we can see from the data, a lot of people that were betting a 38%, almost 40% chance that there was going to be a rate hike. So it was like 60, almost 60-40, right? This used to never happen under Jerome Powell. By the way, Jerome Powell was also nominated by Trump, was also a Fed chairman nominated by Trump.
Right.
But I would say the first time during Trump's first term, the problem is in Trump's first term, he was a real estate developer. He wasn't a politician, so he didn't understand enough politics that you needed. He was a little bit naive, to put it plainly. So he picked a guy who he couldn't control. And now, after being the whole election 2020 saga, where claims of election rigging were made, and in 2024 he wins it back again. After all that, he's matured as a politician. Now he realizes he needs to control everything. When he first got in, it was basically the establishment. The rhinos. I think you guys call them the rhinos. The establishment basically just I said, don't worry. You don't have to worry about anything. We'll put your cabinet together. We'll put your Supreme Court nominees together. We'll put your Fed chair nominees together. Don't worry about it. You be a great president, right? We know how that's how it works, and that's why Trump had a high turnover rate. He fired a lot of people, right? Because he didn't know how to run the presidency in his first term. He wasn't a politician, and that's why everyone loved him, and that's why everyone voted for him with the MAGA folks, right?
Paul.
That innocence of not being a politician is what everyone likes. So he picked someone as a Fed chairman who he could not control, and he hated that decision. So he was going to make sure that the second chairman he picks is going to be somebody he can control. And I've been saying, yeah, go on.
No. Just. I just don't want to forget. Do you think that the bond market's front running the Fed, according to what you're saying here? Or what do you like? What are you suggesting or not suggesting?
They always the bond markets and the bills markets and the short-term Fed funds rate markets, they always try to front run the Fed. Yeah. Because in the old days, that's what you're supposed to do. The central bank, I'm not saying this is right or wrong. I'm not saying this part. I'll be honest. I'll call a spade a spade. This part of what Kevin Walsh is doing is probably the right thing. It may not even be bad. What Jerome Powell used to do is basically he would want to make sure the market does not get a shock. He would basically telegraph his moves before he makes the moves. Like imagine if the market, right, priced in, like yesterday, priced in a rate hike, but he comes out and he says, no, we keep rates on hold. And then all of a sudden, you basically have the Fed funds rate futures snap back 25 points. You have the US 2-year yield snap back like 18, 20 points. You have the bonds just go zigzag out of whack all day, and stocks do this, right? Yeah. And so I'm not saying this is right or wrong. The old philosophy used to be that, hey, you shouldn't creates so much disruption in the markets, right? So they used to telegraph to you, they're like, oh, inflation's really bad. Inflation's really bad. When they keep on saying that, then you know they're going to hike. When they say, oh, I think we could wait for more results, we're data dependent, we're data dependent, then that means they're probably not going to hike. We should just wait until really bad inflation comes out. So what Kevin Walsh does is the opposite of that. He basically doesn't give you anything. He doesn't give you any criteria, which is not necessarily a bad thing, right? In theory. And then on the day you're guessing 60-40, 60% chance it's on hold, 40% chance he's going to hike. Turns out he doesn't hike, the market snaps back, and it's a violent move. So the market is always trying to front run the Federal Reserve. It's just getting a lot harder now. But here's the problem.
Yeah.
Here's the problem. When he announced they're not going to hike rates on Wednesday, what happened was the Fed funds rate snapped right back down, right? No rate hike. The 2-year interest rates yield snap right back. But interestingly, US 30-year bond yields hit a 19-year high. 19-year high.
Paul, real quick, just for people who don't have finance experience, why do you worked in an investment bank? Why do professionals even look at these 2-year yields? Just for someone who's new to trading.
Because the 30-year yield, basically the 2-year yield, the 30-year yield, and the 10-year yield, they basically are the market's prediction of where rates are going to be for the next 30 years, 10 years, or 2 years on average. Yeah. It's a little bit like this. It's kind of like saying
and also what is the market already pricing for people who,
okay,
just so they get because we have some beginners that look at our time, so
let me show you. I'm going to try this. Okay, so that's my laptop. We can see here. Yep. We can see here. Is that, are you seeing that properly, or is that kind of left to right?
Yeah, thank you for letting us look. You guys are getting to see what my partner, former investment banker, Pablo Heman. For those of you that are listening on the podcast, if you look at the video on YouTube, you'll get to see a graph that he's sharing on his computer. By the way, all of you can join our trading community. We have one of the largest trading communities. Pablo and I co-founded in 2021 for more than 5 years. We never did one crypto pump and dump. We never did one NFT. We kept it good. We kept it member focused. Do what's best for our members. The link's in our profile. Go ahead. Sorry about that, Pablo.
Okay. So I was trying to think of an analogy, like let's say if you are a t-shirt maker, if you're a shoemaker like Nike, and you want to know how to run your business, maybe not as big as Nike, you're just the average guy who makes t-shirts and souvenirs, and you want to you don't know who's going to win the Super Bowl this year, but do know that whoever wins is going to sell a lot of merchandise, is going to sell a lot of t-shirts and shoes. So as a small businessman, what do? Then you go to the betting markets. The betting market's going to tell you, it's 80-20 odds that the Patriots going to win. And so you order a lot more Patriots shoes, t-shirts, and souvenir to sell than the other team, right? Because the market is telling you it's 90-1, like 90-10, 80-20 odds this team's going to win. Now, same thing here. That's the best way probably to get the average person to understand. This is basically the market saying where the average rate for US government yields are going to be in the next 30 years. And right now it's saying on average 4.73%, which is, check this out, I'm going to put it on a longer term chart so you can see it's basically the highest rate since 2007. That's 2007. So it's almost a 20-year record. Sorry, one second. That's the 10-year. But okay, whilst we're on the 10-year, that's also breaking out. Because look at this. This is 10-year. This is probably arguably the most important rate in the world, right? This is see that important trend line? going down, and now it's broken out. It's busted out. So basically, that's a pretty big breakout. On the day, look at this. I'm going to show you on the day the meeting happened, right? This was Wednesday. Wednesday, he cut rates, but the 10-year yield, the most important yield in the world, they call that risk-free rate, went up. Think about what that means. You cut rates, it's supposed to go down, but the 10-year yield went up.
Yeah.
What that's saying is the market is calling bullshit on him. The market is saying, yeah, we don't believe you. You cannot manage interest rates. You cannot manage inflation very well. Look at this. Look at this. It's a 20-year record, right? 20-year record. Hold on to your hats, everyone. He said we do not hike rates. If when the market was expecting rate hikes, he says we're not going to hike rates. And then as soon as he said that, the market goes bullshit. Boom, boom, boom. By Friday, we're here, right? Like the market is basically saying we think you're going to mismanage the economy, and inflation is going to be so bad that for me to buy a 30-year bond, I'm going to demand a much higher rate. Because if inflation is going to get to like 3%, 4%, then my bonds, I'm going to need it to pay me 5.25%. It basically went from 5.1 to 5.25% in 3 days. That's a huge move. And let me show you now. This is a 20-year new all-time high. So look at this. This is where we are now, right? Compared to here, which is that's 2006, 2007. It's it's 19 and a half years, almost a 20-year record. It's just pretty insane what's happening. Like to see a Federal Reserve chairman do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. So just in general, so what would you say right now? And we talked about the how do you price the rate cut, the importance of the 2-year yield. What are you thinking? What are you thinking is coming next in September?
In September. Yeah, very good question. Because that's the very next in September is the very next rate.
How do you in general, how in general are you going to look at these rate cuts and price them before the meeting?
Here's the thing. Like I think you have I think you have a politics audience, so I think they're gonna love this because the Fed makes its decision by voting. So that's a very good question you're asking because in September they have the next meeting, and that's the most important meeting because it's the one right before the midterms, the one that's going to decide the fate of America and much of the world for the next 2 years. Trump would love to get a rate cut going into the midterm elections. September is probably like the last. I think there's one more Fed meeting in late October, so September is kind of like a good chance. Now, but the Fed is also goes on the voting system, as you know. It's not one guy. It's not just what's his name, Kevin Walsh cannot dictate interest rates himself. He needs to convince the rest of the board. They have 12 people voting, and do you know what the for and against was to hold rates on Wednesday? Do you know what the number was? Was
What?
9-3. 9-3. That's already the most dissent, the most conflict in the last 21 years. For 21 years, since 2006, we've never had disagreement among the Fed voting members of 9-3. It's usually that I've ever only seen it like 11-1. Usually there's one guy who dissents. It's either Kashkari or Waller. And also there's another guy that Stephen M something. The name starts with the last name starts with the M. You know how Trump placed another stooge of his inside the Fed so he could keep on voting 50 basis point cut, 25 basis point cut. Stephen Moran or something like that. But anyways, the point is we've never seen a Fed this divided. 9-3 is the most divided Fed we've seen in a long time. The reason why is because they don't want to give the market a signal that the Fed has no idea what the fuck they're doing. They don't want if you imagine the worst scenario is this. If you get to September and you have 6 votes on one hand and another 6 votes on the other hand, 6 votes to hike rates, 6 votes to hold rates. So then you need a tiebreaker, like in tennis, like in the Super Bowl, you have that 1 point overtime, right? Going into overtime, tiebreaker. Kevin Walsh being the Federal Reserve chairman, just like Jay Powell, being the chairman, your 1 vote counts as 2 votes. So
Yeah.
therefore, you get a 7-6, right? So because he got a 9-3, and this is, I can't say it's unprecedented, but this is like the most divided Fed in 21 years. So what could happen is this. When it comes to September, we could see a really, really divided Fed, like a 7-5, or God forbid, even a 6-6. And then Kevin Walsh has to come in and do a tiebreaker. Then the market's going to go crazy. Like that's open revolt season. That's open revolt season. That's like say for example, if Trump went to Congress, or I don't want to always say Trump because then people are like, oh, he's anti-MAGA. I'm not. I'm not. Let's say Biden. Let's say Biden went to Congress and says, "Oh, we're going to strike on Iran," and the House passes with a margin of 1 vote, and then Senate. You know how they have 100 senators, right? And it passes with 51-49, and people are just like, "This is literally a 50-50 decision. You put our country to war in Afghanistan or in Iran or in Ukraine with a vote of one, like that would cause." Riots, right? Do you know what I mean? So because the people would be like, you don't even agree amongst yourselves. This is like six versus six, and Warsh had to go tiebreaker using his 1 vote to count as 2 votes. So this could get real political. This could get real political. Yeah,
So
in September.
how do you think the Chinese in general, in Shanghai, Beijing, Shenzhen, how do you think those traders are pricing this Iran conflict? Since you
Oh,
brought up
the
Iran,
Iran conflict.
yeah,
Uh
just for people in the West, in America, North America, Europe, how do you think? How do you think the Chinese traders are
oh,
pricing Iran conflict?
the I think a lot of them, if you don't have real intel inside the Strait of Hormuz, if you don't have real intel inside the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, then or God forbid Israel, then you don't know what's going to happen next. Right now, I would just say that a lot of people see the danger. A lot of people see the danger. A lot of people think that oil reserves, which is another topic we spoke about last time we had an interview,
Yeah.
is going down real fast in the United States. Like the U.S. From look, I'm not going to sugarcoat my words. That's used the words of Trump himself when he signed that ceasefire about a month ago, 6 weeks ago. People asked him, "I thought we're winning. Why did you sign a ceasefire?" Do you remember what he said?
Not
Do you
not
remember
not
what he said?
no, not on that one. What did he say?
He basically said that we have 4 weeks of oil left. 4 weeks of oil left. Do you want to see Bedlam? He says the words he used is, "Do you want to see Bedlam?" Meaning like traffic lights not working, cars crashing into like in all the superhero movies. He's not exactly exaggerating that much because what happens is United States has its national reserves, which is called the SPR as Strategic Petroleum Reserves. That's something you meant to keep for yourself in case there's like a major disaster, like in case Yellowstone volcano erupts, or there's a hurricane that hits Oklahoma and Texas, and all the oil refineries are out. That's what you're supposed to use it for. Between Biden did this as well. Between Biden and Trump, they've now emptied more than half of that. That's kind of like saying, that family, your family sets aside $100,000 for a rainy day. It's literally for like somebody needs to go to the hospital for broken leg, cancer, leukemia, whatever, and you spend $60,000 on a car or a camping trip, whatever. It's the equivalent of that. So there's also some private storage. My understanding is this: some private storage in a place called Cushing, Oklahoma. That it's named after that area. That area is called Cushing, Oklahoma, where they store a lot of these private oil reserves as well. And those oil reserves are pretty much hitting zero right now, like literally zero. So the strategic reserves are down like 60, 70, 60%. The private reserves are hitting close to zero because you know this. You talk about this in your videos all the time. The Hormuz Strait is not open. There's no oil coming out. Demand remains the same. You still drive a car. I still drive a car, right? China still got its factories running. Japan, Korea, America's factories are still running.
Yeah.
So the demand is still roughly the same, but there's 11 to 12 million barrels less oil every day. How does the world deal with that?
The strategic petroleum reserve is literally
Yeah.
just one variable. So how fast do you think the global spare production could replace a major supply shock in next week if this conflict just gets worse?
It cannot be replaced because okay. I'm gonna open up the since you've got a political audience, so I'm gonna show you the map of the Middle East, and then we can see what is happening. Mid East map.
And also Pablo, if Hormuz does get disrupted for, let's just say, 30 days, okay, what asset are you repricing first? Crude, bonds, gold, equities? That's the follow. After you answer, I don't want to interrupt you. After you answer that, yeah.
Okay. So here we can see the Middle East, and most people know about Hormuz Strait. Hormuz Strait is here. We've been talking about it, right? And here's the thing. Basically, oh, 1 second. Basically, people have been saying that Hormuz Strait, Iran is here. Iran chokes the Hormuz Strait, and all the oil countries, including that's where Dubai is, can't really get their oil out. So the one backup plan, kind of the emergency escape hatch, right, is from Saudi Arabia. They have a pipe that transports the oil like 800 kilometers here to Jeddah or to one of these cities, like I think a smaller city here, right? And then they get it out through the Red Sea. This little stretch of water here, let me just pull it up, is called the Gulf of Aden. This is the Gulf of Oman or the Hormuz Strait. There's a name, Arabic name for this as well. It's called the Strait of Bab el Deeb, Mand el Deeb, the Strait of Mand el Deeb. You can see that's even narrower. Look at that. That, would you say that's narrower than here?
Yeah.
That's only 33 kilometers across. That's only like 5 kilometers across at its narrowest point. Guess who guards that waterway?
Who?
There's a rebel group inside Yemen called the Yemen Houthis.
Oh yeah.
You ever heard of them? Yeah. They're fighting against the proper Yemen government. They're backed by Iran.
Yeah.
They're kind of to use a religious term, Iran created revolutionaries or rebels, however you want to call them, inside a lot of countries, including Iraq, Lebanon. There's Hezbollah inside Lebanon. In Iraq, I think they call them militia of Iraq. Here, they're called the Yemen Houthis. Because it forms a arc, they call it by its they use a religious name. It's called the arc, the Shiite arc of resistance. The Shia arc of resistance. Shia meaning the Muslim religion of Shia, as opposed to Sunnis, right? It's also a religious thing. It gets complicated, but all you have to remember is if this thing gets worse, then Iran can just send one message to Yemen, and within like 5 minutes, they're going to choke this one as well. So what happened before the war is 20 mil barrels a day, which is about 20% of the world's oil supply, comes out here, goes past, right, Indian Ocean, and it basically goes through Malacca Strait to China, South Korea, Japan, which is the China, South Korea, Japan, the three powerhouses, manufacturing powerhouses of the world. Now what happens is you have 20 mil, only 7 mil can go through here. 11 to 12 mil is choked off. A little bit comes through Oman, but 11 mil barrels out of 55% gets choked through here, right? Out of the 20. And then if this war escalates any further, Iran's going to get Yemen to choke this part, which is already happening, So it gets worse. So then the solution is to go take the oil and go through here, which is the Suez Canal. That's a narrow waterway, and for it to reach Asia, then you basically go all the way around Gibraltar, Cape of Good Hope, around Africa, and fucking then end up in with China, Japan, and Korea. So it's a clusterfuck for the world economy, really.
Pablo, how would China look at it if both the checkpoints got closed at the same day? It just goes crazy.
It's basically just gonna, like Trump said, it's gonna cause bedlam. It like a lot of traders have been betting that interest rates should go to $150. Let me just show you quickly the trades we've been making in our Discord. Let me just quickly show you, since now I figured out how to use this this mobile phone. So here is,
because think about it, man. Oil has not been rallying more, bro. It's also not been rallying more. I guess what are we doing here?
Yeah, you're right. It's a strange situation, but I think it's they're keeping a hand on it to keep the oil price down, and I don't think they can keep it down for much longer. I don't think they can keep it down for much longer. This is, I'm going to show you the oil trade. Okay, here we go. So basically, right. This is what we've been doing. So once you understand what is happening in the world, then it's kind of easy to make decisions on, easier. So when oil was dropping, right, dropped all the way from like $100 something down to about 70. This is around what, 75. We started buying, right? Not using much leverage. We started buying there. And I said to folks in my Discord, I said, look, you can probably get a lower entry. That's a very small buy. The big buy is around $67. And the bottom indeed came at $67, right? Almost exactly. And so I'm happy about that call. We don't always get every call right, but I'm happy about that one. Then as it kept on going up, I said, look, we're probably going to top out around 80. When I get around mid 80s, when I got to sold some to lock in some profits early. When it got to 85, I sold more. I said, look, this is the place where Trump starts going, ceasefire, ceasefire. Whenever oil goes up, right, he would say ceasefire. And this is where Trump actually tweeted ceasefire. So we sold at the top, right? But I still have a position. I still have some. When he says ceasefire, the market actually believes him. It's like, I don't believe in Kevin Walsh. I don't believe what Trump says, but the market, some people in the market are dumb enough to believe it. And they dump oil, and then it spikes again, and I sell it again. I might sell some more because we're in the mid 80s again, right? And if it takes another dump, right, I might actually load up on some more. So like the philosophy we use is to basically never use that much leverage. Always protect your capital. Always try to be safe, but whenever but always it's kind of like with with the Kevin Walsh situation, you have to basically know if the person is you have to know if the person is trustworthy or not. This is just like the Kevin Walsh situation. Let me show you. So this is what we're doing during the before they signed the ceasefire. Every time Trump says ceasefire, the market would crash. I would buy some oil and buy some oil. He says ceasefire, we would buy some oil because you just call bullshit on it. And then when oil gets up to around $100 again, you know he's gonna then do some peace talks, right? He's under pressure because inflation's going up. We sell, and then when it drops, he says ceasefire, we buy, and then when it pops up to 105, 110 again, we sell, right? Like we were playing this game all day inside our Discord, right? Inside our Discord, and it was just like, it doesn't take a lot of brains. People might be like, oh man, oil, international, that map you showed us, that understanding the international geopolitical map, Yemen, Houthis. You're talking about countries that I've never heard of, Pablo. Like this is this is too much. It's not. It's not. You can do this. You can trade This is what I teach people in our Discord. You can learn to trade the dumb way, or you can learn to trade the smart way. The dumb way is trying to be smart, to learn geopolitical history of the Middle East, Yemen, Israel, the Six-Day War, the Yom Kippur War, whatever, right? Become a brainiac. Or you do it the smart way. And the smart way is actually the dumb way, which is basically you say to yourself, do I believe Trump? After watching 12 seasons of fucking The Apprentice, do you still believe that guy? Oh, I just grabbed him by the pussy, right? Like, after all of that, are you serious? Like, if he says there's a ceasefire, that's not going to happen. Buy oil. Only idiots would crash and sell oil when Trump tweets ceasefire. That's when you just buy oil.
Pablo, I just want to say to my followers, I do support Trump. I understand Pablo. He goes a little bit left wing, but he actually has a very unique perspective. I've been partners with him for more than 5 years, and there's a lot of things he says that is truly, it'll give you an edge in the market. It'll give you an edge at understanding how the world looks at it outside of the Western media. So,
okay, look, I want to apologize if I offended anyone who's a
no, Pablo. I just want to say as a disclaimer, because I welcome free speech. I'm not like these woke feminist freaks who cancel everybody. I like your free speech. Go
ahead. Just to be clear, when I was pro-Trump, because we talk about crypto a lot, we want a crypto bull market in our Discord. So when Trump first got elected, I celebrated the Trump election for 2 reasons. I said, one, in his first term, he's the only president I know who didn't start a war. Like, ever since even JFK started a war, and he started Vietnam. JFK started Vietnam. Lyndon Johnson kept the Vietnam War going. Like, every U.S. president you could name had at least started 1 or 2 wars, right? Obama got the Nobel Peace Prize. He started 2 wars, right? So I said, one, finally, the world gets a peaceful president because Trump didn't start any wars in his first 4 years. And 2, he's really going to do something for crypto. And now 1 year into his 1.5 years into his second term, what can we say about that, right? His war record is broken, and he didn't do much for crypto. It's a huge crypto bear market. So I'm just trying to show you, I'm not against the guy. I supported him when he got elected in the second time around. This is all on record. I'm not against him at all, but I'm just calling a spade a spade. So the thing is, look, if you by now you can already figure out what kind of personality he has. So most of the time, not every time, because when he tweeted, we signed an MOU, peace agreement with Iran. That actually did happen, and oil did crash down to $67. And you saw that I misjudged the situation, and I went in too early at $72, and it was a little bit early, but it was only a small position, and I didn't get stopped out, right? So it doesn't work every time, but most of the time, you know what kind of personality he has, and you can almost gauge what he's going to do. That's the smart way of trading the markets, rather than studying the history of Israel, the history of Yemen, history of Iran, who is the IRGC, who is the Ayatollah. The easiest way is to say, oh, Trump tweets ceasefire, buy oil crashes, buy it. It's it's my way of saying, I think Trump is stuck with the Middle East and he can't get out of Iran. If you start with that basic premise, then you basically know that there isn't going to be a real ceasefire. Even when the ceasefire was signed and oil went to $67, I kept on telling my Discord, you were in there, you know this. I kept on saying, look, this is going to be like Ukraine. You think it's going to end in 3 months, but it's going to end maybe 3 years later. They're still fighting. They're going to fight for a few weeks, then talk for a few weeks. Fight for a few weeks, then talk for a few weeks. Nobody believed me, not even in our Discord, because they just signed an MOU and oil crashed to $67. That's when I said, buy oil. This thing ain't gonna end. They're gonna talk for a few weeks, then they're gonna fight for a few weeks. In fact, I used an analogy. I said, this Iran war is gonna turn out into one of those 1970s classic porno movies. If you ever watch the classic porn from the 1970s, they actually have a lot of dialogue. Like, when you tune in, you go, why are these people talking? And this doesn't feel like a porno movie, right? Because they believe in dialogue and building up the emotions. And then they go, oh, wow, they get everything off. It's just like a normal porn. and then 15 minutes later they get dressed and they talk and they go on dates and stuff. Like it's a mind-blowing concept. It's a mind-blowing concept that they're not just going at it for the whole movie. But
Yeah.
that's what a 70s porno is like. And because people don't get it, I need to give them. It's like, you know how I use the sports analogy of how to bet on the Patriots to win. So you order more shoes. Now people instantly understand, oh, that's what a 30-year bond is. That's what a US 2-year bond is. That's what a futures, uh, a Fed funds rate futures is. People don't understand why. What do you mean by we don't follow the Ukraine war? What do you mean it's going to be like the Ukraine war? I say they're going to talk for a few weeks and then fight a few weeks, fight a few weeks and then talk a few weeks. They still don't get it. I said, okay, it's going to be like a 70s porno, like Debbie Does Dallas. There's actually talky bits. There's actually talky bits before they get the shoulder pads and the chest pads off.
Yeah.
It's literally going to be like that. Like you could edit this video, put it out there, so we can say Pablo code this. We can revisit this in 6 months, in a year from now. Pablo code this.
So Pablo, so what do we have coming up in the next few days in the community, man? And what's coming up, and so we can actually join us and
Okay.
not miss this conversation.
One last thing I'm going to say before we get there is this, and this is for you political guys who are Trump voters, Trump supporters. I don't think this thing's going to get resolved before the midterms. And Trump actually, because he's honest and refreshing, he actually said this. He says it was the Fox news anchor interviewed him, that blonde lady. She's like, looks like she's in her 50s. She said, when would your ideal timeline be to strike Iran? Would it be after the midterms? And Trump actually answered this. He says, ideally, if it was up to me, yes, absolutely. We'll nail them after the midterms. And I was like, wow, you don't think the Iranians are watching this? Everyone knows, like everyone who's betting on this is going to bet you're going to hit them after the midterms. Because after the midterms, there's no consequences for another 2 years, right? And everyone is already thinking, this is the move I would make if I was Trump. It makes all the sense. And then this news anchor from Fox actually asks him, and he actually says, yeah, that's what we're going to do. And so I think what's going to happen is basically either there's two scenarios here. Either Trump says, I'm never going to win the midterms. My opinion polls are down too much. So the one shot we have winning midterms is to go all out blitzkrieg, send in the troopers, take out Iran, take out the IRGC, and victory, and win before November the 4th. Then we can go to November 4th, right, and say, we won Iran. The first president in 50 years, in half a century, Carter, freaking the Ford, Clinton, Bush Sr., Bush Jr., fucking Obama, nobody took out Iran. I did. King of the world, right? He'll be shoo-in, win the midterms. That's the only chance he's got. But it's too much of a gamble. That's option number one. Option number two is fight a few weeks, talk a few weeks. Fight a few weeks, talk a few weeks, and drag this thing out past November the 4th. Then it doesn't matter if you win or lose the midterms. Then smack the hell out of Iran and finish the job. We all know he wants to finish the job.
Yeah, but
so,
Pablo, I don't think like, and I just love to get your just opinion on this. I don't think that job is that easy, bro. I think that between Iran, the fact that they have a lot of warriors, I mean, these are rugged guys, man. And for example, the biggest opposition leader, Reza Pahlavi, who I support. However, unfortunately, he has a very feminized movement at this point to me. It's very like LGBTQ, woke feminists, like, bored Iranian housewives that have nothing to do. And they don't understand why Trump has no confidence in Reza. They don't understand why Israel maybe has no confidence in Reza. And then they get upset with me when I tell them, hey, you guys are competing with warriors basically in Iran and China. They're not going to let Iran go. They're not.
Oh, you're talking about the prince of Iran, right?
Yeah,
Reza. He's the prince. He's the son of the exiled king, right?
Yeah, but he's basically saying to Americans and Israelis and unarmed Iranians, go do the fighting, and then I walk in, and then I'm a transitionary leader. I mean, I don't think that it's. I think it's a little bit disillusioned, man. From like
yeah, Reza. He's the king of the.
Yeah, what do you?
He's
think?
if I'm not mistaken, I can't pronounce his name, but Reza, his first name,
Yeah,
that guy you're talking about is the son of the exiled king from the Iranian Revolution in 1980. Is that right?
1979, basically,
Yeah.
it was when the revolution happened. Yeah,
What's his name? Reza?
Reza Pahlavi.
Oh, Pahlavi. Okay, Reza Pahlavi. I think it's this is actually the wrong message to be sending out to the world. The marketing is totally wrong. Uh, you basically need to tell the Iranian people the king's going to be back. We're going to storm the IRGC. It's going to. You don't call him the next prime minister of Iran. No one wants that. No one. Who cares, right? You're going to have to. They got a god on the other end. They have a god, man. That guy IRGC Ayatollah. He's literally like not a prophet, but he's literally like Ayatollah. It's a religious title, and then you come in with a guy who says, "Oh, he's going to be the next prime minister." That's not good enough. What you need is basically say Reza Pahlavi, Prince of Persia. Boom, Prince of Persia, Sands of Time. Boom, right? Get some Hollywood. It's the
Yeah,
right.
yeah, man.
Anyways,
Yeah,
look, I'm. My point is, it you you think that it's not going to be easy. Where you're saying if US actually send in troops, especially if they don't send their own troops, they send the Kurds, they're not going to win. That's what that's my understanding. What you're saying to me,
yeah, because
I'm saying
Pablo, the
is
thing
that
is, yeah, the Pablo. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. The Western woke feminist Iranians, they have feminized Reza's movement, and they don't understand why Trump doesn't support or have much confidence in Reza. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just don't think. And also the prime minister Netanyahu in Israel, he may lose the fall election in Israel. And Gadi Eisenkot, who's a Moroccan Jewish guy, former military, he's a warrior leader. He actually basically critiqued Israel for even getting involved and thinking that they would win in Iran. So the bottom line is that it's possible that not only this fall season does Trump get smashed in the midterms with this Iran war, completely obliterated, and the House Senate is Democrat, but also that Gadi Eisenkot wins as prime minister of Israel, and he doesn't actually want to go into Iran like that either. So,
but you said he's a military guy. Isn't
oh yeah,
he? Isn't he more of a hawk?
he's a center,
Okay, so
center left.
he's ex-military, but he's not a war hawk.
He doesn't think Israel can defeat a country like Iran in the way that Netanyahu's not that popular right now, man, in Israel. He's so
Look, all that
that's their
aside,
domestic politics. That's their domestic politics. You know what I'm saying?
all that aside, it doesn't matter if they can or cannot win. The only thing that matters is if the five guys who are talking to Trump, who are Trump's
Exactly.
advisors,
Exactly.
tell him if they're going to win or not. Trump is a real estate guru, right? If you ask him about real estate in New York, if you ask him about producing reality game shows, he's the expert. But if you ask him about Iran, honestly, I don't think he can probably not name you who was the previous IRGC leader before Khamenei. He probably cannot name the guy before Khamenei. He probably can't name Reza Pahlavi's father, who that is, and he probably can't name you who put Reza Pahlavi's father into power, and why the Iranian Revolution 1979 happened, why that came about, why people, why would people? We've all seen photos of Iran when it was women walking around in skimpy jeans. Why would people want to overthrow that government and put in a religious Muslim IRGC type of government? I don't think Trump is he's expert at certain things, but he's not expert on Iranian government policy and how to start a revolution in Iran. But the five guys that surround him, like literally, and this is a fact, he's Middle Eastern negotiation expert is his son-in-law, Jared Kushner. And and
Steve
he's
Witkoff.
that
Steve
who's that
Witkoff.
guy who runs the Pentagon, Department of War?
Pete Hegseth.
Pete Heck says it's basically about five or six guys like that. If they get together and they tell him, yes, sir, yes, Mr. President, I believe we can win. I believe we're going to smash the Iranians. And when we don't even need a full occupation of Iran. We just go in, send in some Marines, airdrop them into the capital, take out the IRGC, and then all the Iranians would flood out of their homes, embrace us just like they did
It's
in
not.
Iraq, wave American flags.
Paul, it's not going to go. Pablo, it's not. It's not. It's just not going to go like that, bro. These people, you know, China and Iran. China had on this. I looked at something. It said China had the #1 highest IQ. Iran had the second highest IQ. These are not stupid people, man. These are very smart people, and they're very violent. And they prepared for this sort of attack. That's going to be like Vietnam 2.0 for America, man. It's not going to be that easy. It's not going to be that easy.
Okay.
Because I hate to say this.
I'm saying that doesn't matter. What matters is what Trump believes in.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what the reality is. What matters if Trump's going to make that decision before or after the midterms. Either way, before or after the midterms, I see a major kick up in the action. Like I'm seeing airplanes flying from Lisbon, Spain, and from Heathrow, not Heathrow, but along the military airports in the UK. Every day there's like 20 planes going into Iraq, going into Jordan to dump equipment. They're ready to stage a major move on Iran, and it's going to happen either before the midterms or after the midterms, depending on the how much they think they could win the midterms. Depends on the odds of that. It doesn't matter what we think the reality is. It matters what Trump is convinced of. He doesn't know much about Iran, I'm saying. So he depends on his advisors. And it depends on what Pete Hegseth and Jared Kushner and, the David, what's his name? Like 3 or 4 of those guys. There's probably 5 or 6 guys that talk to him. It depends on what they tell him. He's totally dependent on them. That's why he made this decision to take out the Ayatollah Khamenei to begin with. And he thought people would flood onto the streets and hold up pictures of Reza Pahlavi and say, we want this guy to be the president, down with the RGC. That probably happening only like 10% of the country. The other 90% either did not do anything, stayed at home, or they came out and started mourning over this dead Ayatollah of theirs. So it was a total miscalculation, right? It depends on what he believes. And he could make the wrong decision.
Yeah. Well, everybody, we would love for you to join our trading community. Since 2021, we have over 40,000 members in the Discord. We have one of the largest trading communities. It's also beginner friendly. We have a special where you get 1 year annual membership for the price of 10 months. The link's in my profile, Pablo's profile, on our page's profile, PN and Friends profile. Would love to have you. And Pablo, what's coming up in the Discord later today or tomorrow?
Well, we're going to be analyzing a lot more about what's going to happen to Bitcoin, what's going to happen to the US stock market, especially with AI stocks, which are probably bottoming right now. Golden opportunity. And like Nima just said, we're making a great offer right now, 12 months, next 12 month membership for the price of just 10 months. And it's a fantastic time to join. You catch myself and many other experts and their opinions. Come and join us in our Discord.
All right. All right, everybody, have a good weekend, and we'll be back maybe next week, I hope, or the following week with another podcast. Thanks, guys.
Okay, thank you. Catch you guys.